Hello, my name is Vincent Rosa Chavez. I'm a producer here at Black Label Music, and today we're talking to Riya Kumar all the way from New York City. You want to say hi to the people?
Hello.
Hello. You ready to jump into some questions?
Yes,
All right. So, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
I am currently a sophomore at NYU studying screen scoring and music composition, and I am a media composer specializing in film, TV, video games, advertising, and I'm currently trying to expand into much more. But I would categorize myself as a very artistic person. I love journaling, I love doing artsy things. I was actually going to pursue graphic design, but then decided to do music instead because it is my true love. But
Oh, really? Oh, how did you get into graphic design as much as you got into music, or was that kind of separate?
um music I've been doing since I was 4, and I kind of had my dad was like a big supporter for me in terms of music, and graphic design was something I discovered that I really loved in high school.
Yeah.
When I was pursuing college and or doing my college applications during senior year and trying to think about what major I wanted to do, I wasn't really sure yet if I wanted to jump or dive full into music because of how risky it is as a career. But my dad was essentially the one who convinced me that I should pursue my true love and passion, which is music.
That is sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, even though I love graphic design a lot, music was always the one thing I was known as the music composer or somebody that was always on the piano doing my own things.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So, when did you start creating music? Like, what age?
I think I was around 7 or 8 years old. That's what my
Oh,
dad tells me. I
okay.
I never we never termed it. I didn't know it was composing until middle school. So
Yeah.
my violin teacher was like, "That you're a composer." But it was just me. I never had piano training lessons. I never took classes. My dad just gave me a keyboard, and he was just trying to get me to be a creative kid. And I used to learn Bollywood songs on the keyboard,
Nice.
and in order to impress all the aunties and uncles at any kiddie party that they would invite over, I'd be like, "Oh, look, I can play this song on the piano," and then it would give me attention. So it was a good
Oh,
confidence
that's
builder
sweet.
as a kid, yeah.
Nice.
But I think it was because of the fact that I didn't take any piano lessons. I didn't feel constrained at all
Yeah,
or tied to any rules, and so I did whatever I wanted to do, and that kind of led into just naturally composing.
that makes sense. Okay. So do you feel like you try to like channel some of your childhood creativity or anything when you're composing now?
I would say it's just changed in
Yeah,
the
totally.
process. So back then, when I was still discovering who I was as a composer and I wasn't still sure whether I wanted to pursue it, it was more of a hobby. And so the music was the sole creation. It stood on itself. And so a lot of things I created were melody based and told its own story. But now what I'm doing is trying to serve other projects and directors and creative leads. And so in a sense, my music has change direction in terms of it's not doesn't stand alone, it aids other people, and so my
Yeah.
creativity and what I think about about my creation of music is completely different than what I used to do, because now I think about how does my music work with the picture, how does it work with dialogue, how does it work in telling a story with this other thing that I'm doing.
Yeah,
um,
that makes
and
sense.
in some ways I like it a lot, and in some ways I sometimes miss what I used to do, because ever since coming to NYU, it's been go, 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 take more projects, do more things. And I kind of want to go back to just creating music to create music.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So how did you first find out about Black Label Music?
I remember I was going through LinkedIn. I
Nice.
I I
LinkedIn.
went through a phase. I like stopped going on Instagram and I was going on LinkedIn more than my Instagram. And it's because I believe that connections and networking is the biggest thing in marketing, is such a huge part of being a composer.
Totally.
And being a successful composer in the industry doesn't mean that you just have talent in music. It also means that you know how to talk, you know how to communicate, you know how to network, you know how to pursue different opportunities. And so I started taking LinkedIn a lot more seriously because I realized I wanted to brand myself as and start marketing myself better.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I was looking for internships, because in the spring semester I really wanted to do an internship so I could get more experience doing more musical things. And a lot of the times NYU kind of promotes um, I wouldn't say that. I don't know how to phrase this. It's like when you're becoming an entry level composer, you don't tend to do music things. You tend to do metadata, or you tend to like work in libraries. And I mean, that's also valuable experience, but I wanted something where I could create music. And
Yeah.
so when I saw the Black Label application, I was like, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah.
They're promoting composers to come and be a part of this internship to compose, which you don't really see. Entry level composition internships don't really encourage that as much.
Yeah, totally.
Just by coincidence, my old mentor from high school, Will Van de Krobert,
Oh, that dude's awesome. I love him. He's so
best
sweet.
person ever. He's the one who convinced my dad was very skeptical about me pursuing composition, and I
Yeah.
met him through my dad's friend who was his uncle. So it was like a crazy connection.
Wow.
And I started taking a few lessons from him here and there just to get feedback on my things. And that's when I started like incorporating criticism in my music. And I learned he introduced me to Logic, to sample libraries, to everything I know and love about composing. And he helped me with my college applications. He's the best person.
Wow. That's so
I
sweet.
admire him so much as a composer too. He's very, very dedicated and inspiring. And he happened to work at Black Label and he knows Ken personally. And
Yeah.
so that was like a crazy connection. And so, yeah, he
Yeah,
encouraged me to
wow.
come and interview or do the interview process with Black Label. And so,
Great.
yeah,
Yeah, I just recently met him like last month, and yeah, he's just a nice guy. He's like super sweet, super easy to talk to, and like very encouraging, you know?
I think he's living on a
So
farm now, which is so cool.
he is?
He mentioned that he was like, he had sheep or something, like he was
Oh
living
my God.
pasture. I don't remember, but
Yo, if he's
it
living
was
on a
really
farm, I
fun.
want to come check it out, Will. Where you at, man? Okay.
I could be wrong.
Okay, cool. So this is the next question here. When you began your musical journey, what were your goals that you felt like would mark your success as a composer and make you feel like you had made it, so to speak?
My goals. So my current goals or my past?
This is like when you started.
When I started,
Yeah.
when I first started, I first thought that I wanted to become a film composer and
Yeah.
strictly that. And so the pathway that um a lot of people follow to become or pursuing in pursuance of becoming, oh, my words, a lot like a pathway that a lot of people follow to become a film composer is doing the internship apprenticeship under like a big composer and a
Yeah.
big like at Remote Control or Bleeding Fingers, and then that eases their way into the film industry, and then they start or either that or they become an independent freelancer in terms of film composing. They take on their own projects, they manage their own things. And then I quickly realized that that was something I may not want to do. I
Yeah.
want to keep all my options open because I still am not sure what exactly I think I would love doing the most. But um, I think I want to start exploring video games. And my
Okay.
next goal now, which I wasn't aware of back then, is I want to try and get into sound design and video games and the video game industry because I've always had a love for video games when I was younger, especially storytelling ones and
Yeah.
horror video games. And I have talked to a couple of video game composers, and the community that's around the industry and the audio kind of part of it is, I think, something I don't see in the film industry. You're kind of a lone wolf sometimes, especially if you decide to pursue it as a freelancer and take on your own projects and manage your own things.
Yeah.
Like Will does, which is
Totally.
incredibly like so hard, so much hard work. But I kind of thrive off of community. And so I think it might be better for me to be in a team, whether that means I join a film composing team or video game composing team or even as a sound designer. I don't know yet, but
So what have been some of your crowning achievements and moments as a musician?
um I think there were two that or there was one specifically that made me start taking composing seriously. Um, and it was when so it's a long story. I'll try to keep it short. There's a class that's offered in my school district called Independent Study and Mentorship, and
Yeah.
that's where you can choose your own topic and field of study, any career, and you throughout the school year you develop a research project and find a mentor, and you interview professionals in the industry to help you complete your project and showcase it, and then you do a 30-minute long presentation in front of people that you invite and talk about your project and your research. And so it's a very selective program. And I got in and was originally going to do comp sci. And my dad again convinced me, this is your junior year, you can do comp sci, computer science, and your senior year, just do music because you don't have any other music classes beside orchestra. And so I said, okay, we'll just go on a limb and do it. And so that's when I started networking, and I reached out to find my mentor. And I reached out to a local studio nearby in Texas, and I sat in one of their recording sessions for 3 days. I was sitting in the corner of the mixing room, and the audio engineer and composer were in the front, um, talking in the mic and directing everything. And I was there for 6 hours. And one day, the composer, I was downstairs. They told me I could eat at the break room, and I was eating like a bagel or something. And the composer was just like, "So who are you? Like, why are you in the break room? Like, were you invited here?" And I was like, I explained that I was doing a research project, and he said, "Oh, so you're a composer?" And I said, "Yes." And I showed him one of my pieces, and he took my phone and he went to the head of the composing studio and said, I want to work, like I'm taking her under my wing.
Oh,
And then
that's sweet. Oh, that's
he's like
good.
I love him, Mac Price. And he was working on the recording session was for a large news network. They were doing a big $1 million rebrand, and so he was the head composer for it. And
Wow.
he said, I actually have a promo video that I need to score, and I think this composition you showed me works for that. So
Yeah.
let's do better sample libraries and pitch it to the head. And I worked on it for a week or so and sent it to him, and then they sent it to the head of the studio, who sent it to the news network. And then I got an email later saying that the news network bought that piece of music for quite a big sum of money.
That's great.
And I think that's when I and both my parents realized that this was something I can actually pursue.
That's great. That's an
And
amazing story.
I think I was only 15 or 16 at the time. So
That's crazy.
I was like very impressionable too.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
I think that was a defining moment when I realized that I wanted to pursue composition. So,
Yeah. Cool. So on your LinkedIn, it says that you were the youngest composer at Empath. So can you tell us a little bit about Empath?
I can't believe that was 2 years ago at this point. Or was it? Yeah, it was 2 years ago, 2022. I came to the NYU screen scoring workshops,
Yeah.
and that's when I fell in love with NYU and the faculty here, and I knew I wanted to come here for college. And so at the workshops, they do critiques, and I was one of two high school participants that were doing
Yeah.
the critiques. The rest of them are like college students and graduates. So it was very, very daunting. And Michael Levine, who's the curator of Empath, and his wife is the CEO, Moret, and they both run it together. So he was there doing the critiques, and he called me over and he gave me his business card, and he said, "I like your music. Do you want to write for Empath?" And I said, "Okay, I'll send over some tracks." And so I sent over a few of my compositions, and they really liked it. And so then after I came back from the workshops, I spent 2 months just every single day writing like tracks, alternatives, cut downs, 60-second cut downs, 30 seconds. It wasn't like the track itself, there were only 5 tracks part of that album, but in total it's 64. And so
Wow.
that introduced me to the whole sync library concept and aspect of the music industry, where TV shows, documentaries, other kinds kind of and that's what Black Label also does. They deal with similar clients. They take music from a pre-existing library and they use them on their projects and they pay the composer a certain amount of fee. And it's easier than hiring an onboard composer, because then you can pick out specific parts of music that you like.
Yeah, totally.
So then I had a lot of fun doing that. But yeah, I
Okay,
really
cool.
love they're both very supportive and they were I Michael recorded the violin parts for me of the track.
Yeah.
And the thing was it was remote, so I would have to send um I had Muse score because I couldn't afford
Yeah.
the other
Music score.
um
Nice.
other subscriptions for the other notation softwares. And so
Yeah.
like the format of this is just really wonky. And I'm like, I'm sorry. He was so, so sweet. And he helped me learn a lot with in terms of like recording things and
Yeah,
recording
totally.
sessions and all of that. Yeah.
So how did you like navigate these sorts of environments as a young composer? And did you experience any like major challenges or setbacks because of your age?
Um, I would say the community has been very, very supportive. And the fact that I have a supportive family
Yeah.
backing me up is like means such a big difference in terms of going down this risky path by myself versus with a team of people. And just emotionally and mentally, that helps a lot. I think the biggest challenge I've had to deal with recently is burnout.
Yeah.
So during high school, which is go, 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 I had a specific goal in mind, and that was to get into a good college and get like a good scholarship. And so I did 23 college applications. And the thing about music applications is that they're double. So you have to apply to general admissions and the music school and do separate resumes, interviews for both.
Yeah.
So it was really taxing. I had no social life. I just came back home, did my college app supplementals, all of that thing stuff. And then even after all of that was done, I applied to like an insane amount of scholarships because I needed my intuition and NYU to be covered because living in New York is insanely expensive.
Yeah.
So after that entire process, I came here and I've never been surrounded. I lived in Texas, and so Texas is mostly the place school I went to was mostly STEM students. I was the only composer, only musically inclined person in that area. And
Yeah.
then I came to New York, and right next to me are 11 other equally and more talented composers than me that have had insane amount of experience and training and expertise in things. Some of them can play like prodigy level on the violin and piano. Some of them are they're like masters at orchestration. They
Yeah.
love doing Broadway. And then here I was with this little small rinky dinky keyboard and broken laptop that was crashing every like
Yeah,
30
totally.
minutes or so, and comparing myself to all of them and feeling like horrible because I felt like I'd worked hard and it wasn't enough for me
Yeah.
because I just kept wanting more. And the thing is, when I look back on my journey and I think about how important the milestones were back then, and even after I had achieved them, it was like, okay, what's next? What's
Yeah,
next? What's
totally.
next? And then now it's so, and I think everybody experiences when they come to college, it's like a free for all. Like there's no common goal
Yeah.
anymore. There's no SATs you have to study for. There's no college apps that you have to do. There's no deadlines. It's all just whatever you want to do and whatever you make of it. And composing is even harder because it's not like a set path. It's like there's so many opportunities and pathways that you can follow as a composer, and you can do whatever you want. I have like one of my composer peers is going into Broadway, and it's not fair for me to compare myself to that person because I don't want to do that, but
Yeah.
yet fall into that trap. And that made me burn out really quickly because like the newfound freedom of being in New York and then also being alone for the first time and having to deal with the new environment and surrounding was very tough.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm still working on becoming better. I often compare myself to everybody around me, and that kind of leads to more pressure on myself and burnout. It feels like what I'm doing is not enough.
Yeah.
Uh, but hopefully I've worked on that mindset more and now it's gotten better, but I still want to get better at improving myself in terms of that. And
Yeah.
I think psyching yourself out is like it's really, really hard, especially when you're alone and you don't have as big of a support system.
Yeah. So what are some things that help with that sort of comparison? Like how do you cope with that, so to speak?
So yeah, so the first month was horrible. I envied all of them and everyone, and I was comparing myself, and I felt like I couldn't open up because anytime I would, it just felt like a big slap in the face that it's just so obvious that they were all better than me. It felt like that. But then now they're all my best friends. It's like I have this big group of best friends and I can go to them whenever I want. And if I
Yeah.
ever have a question, I can go to them. And I don't compare myself anymore because we're all so different and we've all had such different lives. It's not fair to like the amount of different circumstances and life experiences that we go through. It's not there's no equal footing for us to compare ourselves to. Like everybody goes through such different things and they want different things, so there's no equal one-to-one comparison. And then once I realized that, I was like, why am I even viewing them as competition? They're my friends. They want me to succeed and I want them to succeed, because I mean, on a purely logistical level, if they're my close friends and they succeed in the industry, there's a better like or higher likelihood that they invite me onto projects if we're good friends and if they're
Yeah,
successful
totally.
and if they need somebody that they know they can rely on. And so it's in all of our best interests to succeed as composers together, especially because the industry is so small. And yeah, so now they're all my best buddies and I go to them whenever I have any issues. So the competition and comparison completely went away after I realized that.
Okay. Wow. That's really insightful. Thank you. So how is your work with Black Label differed from your work outside of the company?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, I kind of went from creating music for music's sake into creating music for to picture. And I kind of missed doing creating music for like for it to stand on its own, or even just like not scoring it to a picture.
Yeah.
And working with Black Label has been so fun because I got to do that again. And I think it's also really cool how so my goal coming into the Black Label internship was to diversify myself as a composer. I would consider myself more of an orchestral instrumental person.
Yeah.
Um, and I think part of being a successful composer is being able to diversify yourself, being a jack of all trades. And so I was able, with Ken's guidance, I got into lyric writing and pop songs and synths and things like that, which is completely out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I'm having so much fun with it. And so he's been really an amazing mentor and guidance and given me such great guidance. So I'm so very grateful for that.
Yeah, totally. So what if so you're getting into new like styles and genres of music. Have you ever sung on one of the tracks for Black Label?
No. And
Okay.
my microphone, it's my like this whole moving process has sent me back so many, like at least 1 or 2 weeks. Um, I did classical Hindustani singing when I was in middle school and high school for 5 years. And the Indian classical singing is very rigorous. It's with the throat.
Yeah.
The technique of it is very rigid. And so kind of I didn't practice it in the right way, in the right technique. And if you do that, you can destroy your voice. And so
Oh
I
yeah.
had like a really like a good belting voice. Like I had a good mixing voice, and that kind of I ruined it because of I
Oh, that's
just
not good.
practicing.
That's not
Yeah,
good.
but
Okay.
and then I got subconscious about my voice. I again the whole comparison thing. I was like, there's better singers than me anyway. Why should I keep doing this? But I genuinely love learning Hindustani, and I listen to a lot of lyrically like poetic songs, and a lot of Bollywood songs like in Hindi are they're all poems and they're all beautifully written, and I was looking into that too. Yeah, and so I haven't let go of singing. I'm trying to. I was wondering maybe I'll get back into it and do some vocal training and get another teacher and hopefully try and ease my way back into it because
Yeah.
I do love singing, and I think lyric writing has also been really fun for me, and that's completely changed my perspective on it too.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So okay, and the last question is what are some of your tips for any composers or anybody interested in becoming a professional musician?
Networking and connections are everything. You could be the most talented composer in the world, but if you don't put yourself out there, no one's gonna know. And that's one of the hardest things too, is being confident enough to market yourself and put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And people that discover you, that are looking onto your pages, um, it's important for them to be able to find you and see um, like who you are as a composer. And then my second biggest one is also having a unique voice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think one of the ways that can help you become more confident being a composer and it's just finding your style. It's good to diversify yourself, but I got lucky that I have kind of a distinct sense of writing in my music with how I write my melodic lines and my whole background in Hindustani music. But I've noticed that a lot of successful composers within my own batch and even in the industry are the ones that have kind of branded themselves in a certain way. And it doesn't have to just be the style that you're doing, it could also be in what you're pursuing.
Yeah.
It also helps with feeling having more clarity on what you want to pursue because the music industry is so broad. You can get caught up into everything.
Yeah, totally. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. My name is Vincent Rosa Chavez. This is Riya Kumar. Do you want to say bye to the people real quick?
Thank you so much for this interview. I had a lot of fun talking about my journey.
Well, great. You did great. Before we leave, can you just tell us where we can find you on social media?
Yes, you can follow me at Riya Kumar Music on Instagram, and my website is also everything is Riya Kumar Music
Okay, cool.
on Google, on LinkedIn, on Instagram.
Great. Sounds good. Well, thanks for doing this. And I hope you have a good rest of your internship. And thanks for answering the questions well. Appreciate that. All right. Thank you.